or the integrated management of childhood illnesses. Okay, so we will be discussing a clinical approach for you, dear students, as future physicians. So our objectives for this morning will be, by the end of my lecture, all of you will be able to define IMSI and explain its importance in primary care, describe the three main components of IMCI, identify the steps in assessing, classifying, and managing a sick child under 5, for you to be able to apply the IMSI algorithm to common pediatric conditions, and lastly, for you to be able to discuss how IMCI will contribute to the universal health care and the SDG targets. So let us first define what IMCI is, okay? So it was actually born in 1995. It's a project of the WHO and UNICEF for managing childhood illnesses in resource-limited settings. So meaning, hindi pang UERM, no? Hindi pang medical center. Pag sinabi nating resource-limited settings, so this will be the barrios or areas na walang masyadong mga access sa madaming mga resources, no? For example, if you're going to become later on, no, when you become doctors, if you want to become doctors to the barrios, na-assign kayo sa mga remote areas, then you will be able to apply the principles of IMCI in managing your pediatric patients, especially those under 5 years old. So as I mentioned, yung target age ng IMCI is under 5. Okay, so makikita nyo later on in the different symptoms that we will be discussing, the management will be for children less than 5 years old. So the ultimate goal of the IMCI is to reduce child mortality, morbidity, and to improve child health outcomes. So meron na bang progress since its inception in 1995? Actually, there is. No? If you're going to look at this slide, you will see that in 1990, there were about 94 deaths in children under 5 per 1,000 live births, okay? Compared to what we have, the latest statistics that I gathered in 2023, it's now down to 37 deaths per 1,000 live births, meaning talaga nag-decrease. So we can see the impact that IMCI has on the health of children under 5 years old. So the rationale for the development of the IMCI will be, in pediatrics, no, you will notice that magkakaiba po yung mga illness. No? It's very different from adult diseases. So there will be overlapping signs of common childhood illnesses. And as I mentioned, no, IMCI is developed for resource-limited settings. So there's limited access to laboratory tests because you will find out later on in reality, no, when you go outside UERM, for example, if you will be assigned in areas na talagang walang mga labs, no, walang X-ray, walang mga CBC, walang mga urinalysis, then you will be able to use the IMCI to classify the illness that your patient has. Also, if you're going to look again at the different symptoms of IMCI, you will see that IMCI is targeting most of these preventable diseases that are the common causes of mortality in under 5 children. So this includes diarrhea, malaria,
Recording stop. Recording in progress.
Nawala po ba?
Yes po.
Wait lang. Sige, sige. Nag-ano lang yung internet, sorry. Nakikita niyo na po?
Yes,
Yes po.
ads. Pero wala pa siya
Babalik ko
dyan
na lang po.
kanina.
Opo.
Please.
Thank you po.
Kindly turn on your videos. And those who are turned on, please be on the camera naman. Kasi we are just seeing,
Illness,
most
no?
of you,
Very
we are
different.
just seeing background only. Pa-start na lang sa rationale ulit, ads. Thank you. A lot of you head lang, forehead, wala yung buong face. We don't know if kayo talaga yung nandiyan sa video. Please fix your cameras. You don't want us to call you one by one to fix your cameras, di ba? So please, be mindful naman. For those whose group mates na nakikita nyo at present, please tell them to be on the video or on the screen. Before we proceed with the lecture. Sige, for those na lang na hindi nakikita sa screen, we'll just take note para naman dun sa ibang, kasi it defeats the purpose, naka-on nga, pero background lang yung nakikita. Aldrin, pa-take note na lang, please. Yung mga wala sa screen. Kahit naka-log sa attendance. Nagpa-open ka na ng attendance?
Yes po, ma'am.
Yes po. Yung Google ay yung magsa-sign in sila sa
Opo, ma'am.
sa Zoom. Alright. Sige. Sige, i-play mo na. Start off ka dun sa rationale, please. Thank you.
Yung mga illness, no? It's very different from adult diseases. So there will be overlapping signs of common childhood illnesses. And as I mentioned, no, IMCI is developed for resource-limited settings. So there's limited access to laboratory tests because you will find out later on, in reality, no, when you go outside UERM, for example, if you will be assigned in areas na talagang walang mga labs, no, walang X-ray, walang mga CBC, walang mga urinalysis, then you will be able to use the IMCI to classify the illness that your patient has. Also, if you're going to look again at the different symptoms of IMCI, you will see that IMCI is targeting most of these preventable diseases that are the common causes of mortality in under 5 children. So this includes diarrhea, malaria, measles, and pneumonia, and malnutrition. So the IMCI is evidence-based because right now, pag walang ebidensya, hindi agad tayo maniniwala, di ba? So lahat ng mga ipipresent ng IMCI will actually be evidence-based and syndromic yung approach ng IMCI. So what are the components of the IMC? Okay, you will see that there are 3 components of the IMCI. The first one will be to improve health worker skills. Pag sinabi nating health worker skills, this does not only mean yung physician or the pediatrician or the family physician. This includes your midwives as well as your nurses manning for example, the rural health unit. So you will be able to capacitate these health workers by improving their skills, no, in terms of identifying, in terms of classifying the symptoms that they see on these patients. And this will lead to improved health systems, okay? So patients will be managed accordingly, and if the patient needs referral, magiging smooth ang referral ng patient, for example, from the RHU or from the health center to a secondary or a tertiary hospital. So the service delivery network is improved. And at the same time, yung process ng IMCI also involves the family. So there will be improved family and community practices. Gaganda yung health-seeking behavior ng ating mga pasyente, no? Especially the mothers. So these are, again, the three components of the IMCI. Improve health worker skills, improve health systems, improve family and community practices. So ano ba yung proseso ng IMCI? How does it go about? No? The first thing that you will do when a patient comes to you, for example, you are in the RHU of a far-flung barrio, okay? A patient is brought in, sabi ng nurse sa'yo, Doc, may patient po. So what you will do first will be to assess the child. Later on, I will be discussing this in detail. After that, you classify the illness severity. And once you classify the illness severity, then you identify the treatment appropriate for the child. You give the appropriate treatment, you counsel the parent, and then you tell them when to follow up. Now, for example, pag mayroong diarrhea yung patient, di ba, what do we teach you? We teach you, of course, diarrhea. We all know that diarrhea is physiologic, but what is pathologic will be dehydration. So what we will be teaching you will be to identify the different degrees of dehydration the patient has. No? So you have to assess and classify the child. What you will notice also in the IMCI is that we do not give a diagnosis. Ang binibigay po natin is classification. Very different. No? Bakit? Because again, no, anong sabi natin kanina? Diba? We involve the midwives and the nurses. So they are not allowed to give a diagnosis, only as physicians. Therefore, they are only allowed to give a classification of the illness. Okay, so yun ang pag titingnan nyo yung IMCI process, yung mga charts, walang diagnosis doon. Ang nakalagay, classification. Okay, so remember that. So I mentioned also that the IMCI target is children under 5. So yung under 5, i-divide pa natin yun. No? Care of a sick young infant from birth up to 2 months, and then care of a sick child, meaning 2 months up to 5 years old. So yun ang age categories ng IMCI management. So in the process, diba, number 1 will be for you to assess the child. The first thing that you will do, no, kapag, actually ito very applicable that kahit nasa ER ng mga medical centers, diba, pag dumarating yung mga pasyente, we always have to look for general danger signs. No? We check, we look, we ask for the presence of any general danger sign, because the presence of any general danger sign will tell us that the patient needs urgent treatment. No? Kailangan asikasuhin natin kaagad. Okay, so we'll go first with the care of a sick child, no? Meaning 2 months to 5 years old. Later on, at the end, no, dun sa last portion ng lecture ko, we will be discussing the management of a sick young infant. No? So for this one, no, we check for the general danger signs. So you ask, is the child able to drink or breastfeed? Does the child vomit everything? Has the child had convulsions? So these are the questions that you will ask the caregiver or the mother or whoever is accompanying the patient. Pag sinabi nating child vomits everything, any intake, no, for example, if you give milk, water, anything that is taken by mouth, sinusukan niya, vinavomit, that's vomits everything. Iba po yung kapag kumain siya, no, when the child eats, did not vomit, but later on, kumain na naman siya, nag-vomit. Okay, so that's very different, no? Pag sinabi natin vomits everything, persistent vomiting, ibig sabihin nun, no? So you ask these questions to the parents or to the caregiver. And then, once you ask these questions, you look or you just examine, no? Parang clinical eye, you look at the child, no? See if the child is lethargic or unconscious, no? Inaantok ba siya? So you ask the mother, no? Pag sinabi mong, kapag ina-assess mo yung lethargy or the level of consciousness of the patient, no? Especially if you are dealing with a child, then you also have to ask the parent, baka naman kasi sleeping time, no, nung bata. So you have to ask the parent, inaantok po ba talaga siya or sleeping time talaga niya to, no? Baka kasi nakita mo lethargic or unconscious kasi talaga natutulog lang naman talaga siya. Sleeping time pa lang talaga nung bata, okay? And Yung kanina, you ask for the presence of any convulsions, for example, at home or sa bahay. This time, you check for any active convulsions, no? Is the child convulsing now? So the presence of these general danger signs will alert you that the patient needs urgent treatment. Okay, you need to give the initial management and then you have to refer immediately to secondary or tertiary care. After looking or checking for any general danger signs, then you go to the main symptom. No, the main symptoms will include cough, diarrhea, fever, or any ear problems. Okay, so you assess the main symptoms. For example, cough. Then you focus on the cough. Later on in the succeeding slides, I will be telling you what to look for, what to ask for in the history if the main symptom is cough. So these are the different main symptoms, no? Cough or difficulty of breathing, diarrhea, fever, ear problems. And aside from this, you also check the nutrition and the immunization status of the child or any other potential feeding problems. So let's focus now on the first symptom, which is cough, okay? So the first thing that you will do after focusing on the main symptom will be to count the respiratory rate, no? Sabi nga natin, no, in pneumonia, no, going clinical now, the respiratory rate or takip niya, if it is present, is the most consistent finding in pneumonia. So when you see a child presenting with cough and takip niya, clinically, no, as a physician, ako as a pediatrician, I will diagnose the patient immediately as having pneumonia without the aid of an X-ray, because your X-ray or any diagnostic procedure will just confirm your diagnosis. So remember, pneumonia is a clinical diagnosis, right? So you don't need an X-ray to diagnose pneumonia. History and physical examination lang makakadiagnose ka na ng pneumonia. So for the IMCI, it asks you to count the respiratory rate in 1 full minute, ha? Please be careful, no? Kasi yung mga iba, they just count the respiratory rate for 10 seconds tapos minomultiply na nila ng 6. Please be very careful, especially if you are dealing with younger infants. Kasi especially yung mga newborns, they have what you call yung periodic breathing, no? Yung hihinga silang ganon, hindi regular yung breathing nila. So you really need to count the RR in 1 full minute. Bawal ang shortcut pagdating po sa bata. Check for chest in drawing, no? Yung chest in drawing is what you, for example, no, makikita niyo yung batang yan sa yung second picture is actually chest in drawing. Lumalalim yung dito sa ilalim ng ribs. Okay, that means your patient is already using accessory muscles of respiration. Your patient is already in distress. Okay, then you look for stridor or wheeze. Sometimes yung wheezing or yung stridor, even without your stethoscope, naririnig mo yon. Okay, so inspiratory yung stridor, yung wheeze naman is expiratory. Okay, so you look for chest in drawing, you look for stridor, you look for wheeze, and you count the respiratory rate. These are the things na importante kapag ang pasyente mo may cough, no? So kung nasa health center ka, hindi mo kailangan ng maraming mga gamit para mag-diagnose ng pneumonia, no? So once you were able to check on this, then you classify. Sabi ko nga kanina, di ba, you don't diagnose, you just classify. So you classify the patient depending on what you found out as having no pneumonia, meaning simple cough or colds lang, meron yung patient mo. In the clinical setting na meron tayo sa UERM, this is the counterpart, for example, ng ano lang, URTI, no? Upper respiratory tract infection lang yan, mostly probably viral. Okay? So that's no pneumonia, pneumonia, and severe pneumonia. So anong difference ng no pneumonia, ng pneumonia, at saka ng severe pneumonia? So what's the difference? So if in the next slide, okay, you will see that, as I mentioned earlier, tachypnea is the most consistent finding in pneumonia. So you should know what the normal respiratory rate is for the age, no? In pediatrics, magkakaiba yung respiratory rate niyan. Kaya so, that is why sometimes, no, some students will say, ang dami-dami namang minimemorize na mga numbers in pediatrics, but it's true. Kasi depending on the age of the patient, okay? The vital signs will depend on the age of your patient. Say for example, for infants less than 2 months, tachypnea is more than 60 per minute. Okay? For 2 months to 12 months, takip niya is defined as having an RR of more than 50 per minute, while for older children, no, meaning 12 months to 5 years, an RR of more than 40 is already considered as takip niya. So what if there is takip niya but there are no other signs and symptoms? Walang danger sign, there's no stridor, no wheezing, there's no chest indrawing. Then you classify the patient as having pneumonia. If there is a danger sign or if there is chest indrawing, no, yung mga use of accessory muscles, then you classify the patient as having severe pneumonia or very severe disease. If your patient has only cough but there's no takip niya, no other findings, then your diagnosis will just be, or your classification will just be no pneumonia, just simple cough or cold. Okay, so that is the classification for cough. Okay, so this is the slide that puts everything in it, no? From the first time that the patient comes into you, you assess. Diba? Kung titignan natin dyan, nandyan na po lahat, including the treatment and follow-up. So this is your IMCI chart for cough, okay? In a patient 2 months to 5 years old. So you assess, you check for general danger signs, and then you go to the main symptom. No? You count the respiratory rate, you check for stridor, you check for indrawing, and then you classify as either severe, as either pneumonia, cough or cold, and then there is an appropriate treatment for each classification. Say, for example, if it is severe pneumonia, then your patient needs to be referred immediately to the hospital. Kailangan ma-admit na yung pasyente mo. But before you send the patient to the nearest hospital, because again, I mentioned that this is usually used in resource-limited settings, doon sa mga malalayong lugar, walang masyadong access sa mga sophisticated labs, di ba? Baka mamaya, ang nearest hospital pa pala is like 1 hour away from your health facility, then you have to give the first dose of your appropriate antibiotic because the classification is severe pneumonia, di ba? So you really have to be urgent, no? You have to be vigilant, dapat mabilis ka. If it is just pneumonia, then you can just give your oral antibiotic for 3 days, no? Titingnan mo dito sa IMCI, iba po ito sa nakikita nating practice, no, for some physicians because you might, okay, baka ang notion ninyo is the antibiotics should be completed for 7 days. But for IMCI, you will notice that the antibiotics will just be completed for 3 days and different po yung kanyang dosing. Okay? Remember, I mentioned that this is evidence-based, meaning yung 3 days na course ng antibiotics may evidence that this has been found to be very effective as well in managing patients who are classified to have pneumonia. Important also will be the advice that you will give to the parents or the counseling that you give to the parents, okay, what to watch out for in your patient and when to come back or when to follow up. Kasi baka mamaya, second day, third day, hindi pa rin nag-improve with the antibiotics that you give, then the patient has to be brought up to your health facility immediately. So that is for pneumonia. When your patient does not have pneumonia, meron lang siyang simple cough or colds, then home medications, home remedy like increased oral fluids, okay, or mga ano lang, mga steam inhalation, or even bronchodilators for patients na halimbawa may wheezing, okay, pero hindi naman in distress, then you just send the patient home, okay, tell the parents what to do or the caregivers what to do and when to follow up. So this slide is complete already, no? Makikita nyo from the assessment up until follow-up of the patient. So you assess, you classify, you identify the treatment, you give the treatment, you counsel, and then you tell the parents or the caregivers when to follow up. So the treatment for pneumonia, I already mentioned that, for example, for very severe disease, you have to give the first dose of antibiotics either intramuscularly or intravenously if you have an access. So the WHO recommendation for severe pneumonia in children 2 months up to 5 years will be ampicillin plus an aminoglycoside, no, your gentamicin or amikacin, at a dose of 50 milligrams per kilo per day for your ampicillin and 7.5 milligrams per kilo per day for your gentamicin. If it is not available, no, kung wala kayong ampigenta pero meron kayong ceftriaxone sa health facility nyo, then you can give it as well before you transfer the patient to a tertiary or a secondary hospital for admission. Pneumonia, on the other hand, okay, if you classified your patient with pneumonia, then the dose for amoxicillin will be 40 milligrams per kilo per dose every 12 hours for 5 days. If there is low prevalence of HIV in your area, then you can give your amoxicillin for only 3 days. Again, this is evidence-based. Okay? Refer if there is treatment failure. So, dapat yung area nyo, ma-identify nyo muna, mataas ba ang incidence ng HIV sa area ko because the duration of the treatment will depend on the prevalence of HIV according to the IMCI. Okay? So, for the second symptom, okay, you have now diarrhea. Okay, so in diarrhea, after checking for general danger signs, you focus on diarrhea, you ask in the history the duration, di ba? Tinatanong natin, gano'n na po siya katagal nagpupupo, gano'n na katagal na nagdadiarrhea yung patient, may dugo po ba sa pupo niya? And then you check for signs of dehydration. After doing that, you classify your patient as having either no dehydration, some dehydration, severe dehydration. If your patient has been having diarrhea for more than 2 weeks, then you classify your patient as having persistent diarrhea. And if there is presence of blood in the stools, then you classify your patient as having dysentery. Okay, so this is your chart for diarrhea. So after asking or looking for any general danger sign, focusing on diarrhea, get a history and do a PE. Okay, so you check for the presence of dehydration by, for example, no, kapag di ba pag nag-check tayo ng dehydration, titignan natin yung level of consciousness ng patient natin. You check the eyes, if there is presence of sunken eyeballs, no? In terms of sensorium, kung lethargic or unconscious, again, nasabi ko kanina, tatanungin niyo muna yung nanay, sleeping time po ba niya ngayon? Baka naman tutulog-tulog kasi talagang inaantok yung bata. Baka mamaya ma-mislabel mo siya na lethargic, hindi naman pala. And then, check for sunken eyeballs. No? You observe if the patient is able to drink. No? Kung minsan you tell the parents, no, painumin niyo nga po siya. Okay, if the child is able to drink eagerly or not able to drink or drink poorly, and then you do the skin pinch. Remember, the skin pinch, no, is done on the lateral aspect of the abdomen. No, you check for the skin pinch if it goes back very slowly, because if these are present, no, yung 2 of those I mentioned, then you classify your patient as having severe dehydration. Okay, and then kapag halimbawa restless lang yung patient mo, hindi naman siya lethargic, okay, but patient has sunken eyes, no, drinks eagerly, thirsty, skin pinch goes back slowly, then your classification will be some dehydration. And if there are not enough signs to classify your patient as some or severe dehydration, of course, your classification will be no dehydration. The classification will tell you the appropriate treatment. No? Kapag severe dehydration in the control of diarrheal diseases or the CDD, ang treatment plan dyan ay treatment plan C, which I will show you later. Kapag some dehydration, treatment plan B. Kapag no dehydration, treatment plan A. So please take note of the different treatment plans for diarrhea depending on the level of dehydration. On this slide, okay, nabanggit ko kanina yung persistent diarrhea, di ba? Sabi ko nga, if the diarrhea has been there for more than 14 days, Okay, then you either classify your patient as having persistent diarrhea, and if there are signs of dehydration, you label your patient as having severe persistent diarrhea. And if there is blood in the stools, you classify your patient as having dysentery, or just put their blood in the stool. Remember, hindi naman tayo nagda-diagnose sa IMCI. We just give a classification of what we see. Okay? So these are the different treatment plans for diarrhea. Pag sinabi nating treatment plan A, ibig sabihin, there's no dehydration. So kung walang dehydration, bakit ka pa magbibigay ng fluids? You give fluids to prevent dehydration. Okay, so yun ang goal ng treatment plan A. So it is a home remedy. You treat the diarrhea at home. You give extra fluid. Okay, so always remember the 4 rules of home treatment for diarrhea. You give extra fluids, you give zinc supplements, you continue feeding, and you counsel the mother or the caregiver when to return to the health facility. So when I say extra fluid, pwede bang tubig? Yes. Pwedeng plain water. Pwede bang ORS? Yes, ORS pwede. So one of the questions that mothers usually ask when you give or when you tell them to give ORS or any oral rehydrating solution, gaano po kadaming bibigay ko sa bata, okay? So it will depend on the age of the patient. So for example, if you're going to give ORS for the child, okay, so for children less than 2 years old, you give 50 to 100 ml of your ORS after each loose stool or vomiting, okay? Or in between, basta humingi siya, no? Yung ganong kadami yung ibibigay mo. For older children, meaning more than 2 years old up to 5 years old, then you have to give 100 to 200 ml after each loose stool. Paano kung older than 5 years old, wala naman siya sa IMCI, no? Just in case, you have a patient, 7 years old, nagda-diarrhea. As much as the child can tolerate. Okay? So usually ang sinasabi natin, volume per volume. So kapag nagtais siya halimbawa ng 1 cup, edi 1 cup yung ibigay mo. Kung isang baso ang approximate na diarrhea niya, edi ibigyan mo siya ng isang baso. So volume per volume replacement. Okay? Yung zinc, okay? So remember, no, another a rule in the treatment of diarrhea or part of the diarrhea treatment plan will be giving zinc. Always remember that when you give zinc, it has to be given for 2 weeks. Okay? Ako tinatakot ko yung mga parents, no? Kasi kung minsan, what they usually do is, kapag gumaling na yung bata, tinitigil na nila yung zinc. I tell them that, sige ka, pag hindi mo binigay ang zinc ng 14 days, possible na baka after 1 week or 2 weeks magtai ulit yung batang yan. Because zinc has been found to actually prevent the occurrence of diarrhea in the next 2 to 3 months. So you tell the parents, no, the caregivers, that if you were able to complete the zinc treatment for 2 weeks, then you will be able to protect the child in the next 2 to 3 months from having another episode of diarrhea. Okay, so fluids or ORS, then you give zinc, and then you continue feeding. Walang bawal. Okay, you tell the mother na whatever the child wants to eat, you give. Okay, so you continue feeding. If the baby is breastfeeding, continue breastfeeding, okay? So walang bawal na pagkain. And then you tell the parents when to return. Okay? So that's for treatment plan A, meaning you want to prevent dehydration in a patient with no dehydration. So what if there are already signs of dehydration? Some signs of dehydration, you now go to treatment plan B, meaning you treat some dehydration with ORS. So on this slide, makikita mo yung computation ng ORS to give during the first 4 hours na nakita mo yung patient. So it will depend on the age of the patient or it will depend on the weight of the patient. Kasi kung minsan hindi mo alam yung age ng patient, then you use the weight. So the computation will depend, no, dito sa table na makikita. For example, meron kang 6 or meron kang 8 kilogram patient, then titignan mo dito, 6 to less than 10 kilograms. So in ml, ang ibibigay mo, 400 to 700 ml of ORS during the first 4 hours. So i-divide mo yon, okay, ang pagbibigay mo sa kanya. So you always remember how to instruct the mother on how to give your ORS solution. You might ask me, bakit hindi pa siya sweruhan? Diba? Nasa health center ka eh. di ba, nasa resource limited setting ka. And treatment plan B is actually an outpatient treatment as well. Okay, and always remember, in hydrating our patients, the best route will still be the oral route. Sa bibig pa rin. E paano kung suka ng suka yung bata? Diba? Paano ko siya mabibigyan ng ORS? Then you can actually consider inserting an NGP and you give the ORS via the NGP. So that is how it is in your treatment plan B. Very important in managing patients with diarrhea, no, with dehydration, is the constant monitoring and assessment of your patient. So sabi nga natin, di ba, yung kinompute mo na ORS, okay, is has to be given in the first 4 hours. After 4 hours, dapat i-assess mo yung pasyente mo. Wala na ba siyang dehydration o baka mamaya lumala pa yung kanyang dehydration, because your management, again, will depend on your assessment after 4 hours. Okay? So yun ang ano natin, yun ang management natin for treatment plan B. So aside from the fluids, you give zinc and then continue feeding and tell the mother when to return as well. Okay. Meron lang akong iano dito, if you do not know the age, okay, you only use the age of the patient if you do not know the weight of your patient. Okay, so the approximate amount of ORS required in ml can be computed by multiplying the weight, no, if you know the weight of your patient, by 75. So for example, ang patient mo 10 kilograms, natimbang mo siya, di ba? 10 kilograms, yan 10 times 75. So para mas mabilis, no? 750 ml ang ibibigay mong ORS in the first 4 hours and then reassess after 4 hours for the classification of dehydration. If your patient is already severely dehydrated, sabi ko nga, dapat ma-refer na yan sa tertiary or sa hospital. Okay? So yung computation yan will depend on the age of the patient. Okay? So ito naka-IV na to. Sinmeruhan mo na yung pasyente mo because your patient already has severe dehydration. If you do not act quickly, then your patient can die on you. Pwede mag-metabolic acidosis yung patient mo. Okay? So you can give intravenous fluids, no? Kung meron kang swero sa yung health center, then you can start giving your lactated ringers, okay, your LR. Okay, so the computation is on this table for infants less than 12 months. Okay, in the first hour, you give 30 ml per kilo. Okay, and then you give the remaining 70 ml per kilo in the next 5 hours, a total of 6 hours. Because the computation for severe dehydration is always 100 ml per kilo. Okay, and it can be given in either 6 hours or in 3 hours, depending on the age of the patient. So take a look, for example, if you're dealing with an infant, no, meaning under 12 months, you have to give the fluids in 6 hours. Okay, so first hour, you give 30 ml per kilo, tapos yung 70 ml per kilo in the next 5 hours. Different ito when you talk about a 2-year-old patient, okay, meaning you have to give it in the next 3 hours. No? 30 minutes, yung 30 ml per kilo, and in the next 2.5 hours, you give the 70 ml per kilo. Okay, but of course, ito, pag kinompute mo na to, dapat tinatransport mo na yung pasyente. Nililipat mo na siya sa hospital. Pinapa-admit mo na siya sa hospital. Pag nakita mo yan sa yung RHU or sa health center mo or sa health facility mo, insert ka na ng IV, you compute, no, the amount of IV fluid that you will give. So, pa-regulate mo na yung IV mo sa nurse mo. So that is for treatment plan C, and then you reassess every now and then para makita mo kung nag-i-improve yung pasyente mo or hindi. Okay? So one of the questions that we usually get in our clinics is, pag dumating na kasi kuminsan yung patient, di ba? Ay, pinainom ko na po siya ng Gatorade, pinainom ko na po siya ng ganyan, di ba? So the question is, are sports drinks really helpful or beneficial in patients with diarrhea? The answer is no. Okay, you do not give sports drinks because they contain too little sodium, very high sugar content, and we all know that sugar will actually absorb more water, causing more problems because of osmotic diarrhea, di ba? And of course, because of the too little sodium content, it can actually lead to hyponatremia. Therefore, the best fluid to give will still be your oral rehydrating solution. Because if you're going to look at the components of the electrolytes in your ORS, akmang-akma po siya sa losses that are incurred during a diarrheal episode. So again, do not prescribe, do not advise giving sports drinks for patients with diarrhea. Okay, kaya nga sila tinawag na sports drinks kasi para lang sa mga nagsisports yan, ng mga involved ng sports, no, yung mga pawis ng pawis, nagpapagod, okay? So not for patients with diarrhea. So I mentioned the role of zinc in diarrhea. I mentioned that you have to complete for 14 days, okay, so that you will be able to prevent further occurrences of diarrhea in the next 2 to 3 months, okay? So you give 20 milligrams of elemental zinc, okay, per day. Okay, so you compute for it, no? So usually, no, yung mga syrup preparations, 5 ml is equivalent to 20 milligrams of elemental zinc. Okay, yung mga drops naman, 2 ml drops is equivalent to 20 milligrams of elemental zinc. Okay, so what are the important points to remember? For example, for treatment plan B, nabanggit ko, I mentioned this a while ago. If you do not know the weight of your patient, you can use the age and use the table that was there. Okay? But in general, if you know the weight, you compute by the amount of ORS to be given in 4 hours by multiplying the weight by 75. Okay? So for example, 14 kilograms yung patient mo, 14 times 75. So ang amount of ORS to be given in 4 hours will be 1,050 ml. So if the child vomits, you wait for 10 minutes, then continue but more slowly. And again, you reassess after 4 hours whether your patient has been saved from dehydration, na-manage mo na yung dehydration, or baka mamaya mali yung computation mo. From some dehydration, baka mamaya naging severe dehydration na yung classification ng patient mo. Always remember to reassess every now and then. So other treatments for diarrhea, no, you don't give yung mga Imodium or whatever mga anti-diarrheals. Sabi ko nga kanina, di ba, diarrhea is physiologic. Your body is flushing out the toxins in your body. Okay? So okay lang na magtae ka ng magtae as long as meron kang banyo, no, meron kang CR na malinis na na-flush mo para hindi ka mag-infect ng iba. Okay? And you just replenish whatever is missing. Okay? There are no drugs which will safely and effectively stop diarrhea, especially in the pediatric population. Antibiotics are not warranted except for patients with bloody diarrhea. No, yung may mga dysentery, if there's already blood in the stools. No, so the use of adsorbents, okay, these are not recommended. The anti-motility drugs like your loperamide are very harmful. No, so you have to be cautious, no, in giving these to pediatric patients. Okay, so those are the 2 symptoms na natapos na natin. Let's now go to fever. Okay, kasi ito yung pinaka-common na one of the common aside from cough, di ba, and diarrhea, yung common reason for bringing the patient to our clinics will be fever. Okay, so you have to assess for the presence of measles, malaria, no, kasi there are provinces in the Philippines na may mga malaria pa rin, no, especially if it is an endemic area. And of course, dengue. One of the things that you need to rule out is dengue. Dati kasi yung dengue during the rainy season, pero ngayon wala na pinipiling months ang dengue, no? Year in, year out, meron tayong mga nakikitang dengue. So if your patient has been having fever, okay, one of the things that you need to rule out will be the presence of dengue as well. So the classification will be based on the presence of possible complications. Okay, so if there's fever, you ask, and then you do your physical examination. Okay, so if the fever, how long has the fever been there? Okay, in the IMCI, no, pinapatanong lagi kung meron bang malaria, high risk ba ang lugar niyo sa malaria? Wait lang. Okay, sorry for that. Nag-ring lang yung phone. Okay, so if your patient has fever, then you ask, okay, kung may malaria ba sa lugar, high or low ba yung risk mo ng malaria, how long has the fever been there, okay, and if the patient has had measles before, no, in the last 3 months, and then you complete your physical examination, and then you classify the patient, okay, as having, for example, severe disease, or if the patient has malaria, especially if there is high risk for malaria in your area. So the treatment will depend on your classification again. No? So this is for high malaria risk patients. For low malaria risk patients, okay, if there are no other findings, then you say that in the classification, your patient just have fever. No, your patient has fever and malaria is unlikely. Okay, so yeah, no, very severe disease, malaria, unlikely if there is no malaria risk. Kung meron ka namang measles, no, remember, in measles, no, there's fever and there's rash. So aside from the fever, wait lang. Sorry, maingay lang yung phone. I need to turn it in silent mode. Sorry for that. Okay, so when you talk about measles, because this is one of the common viral exanthems that we see in pediatrics, right? So measles, fever is one of the main symptoms, and then you check for the presence of rashes. Okay. Also, no, nakalagay yan, general danger sign. What did I tell you? If there is presence of danger sign, you classify the patient already as having severe disease. Okay, and then the other physical examination findings, no, depending on what you found out, then you classify as having either severe complicated measles, measles with eye or mouth complications, or just plain measles. Because if it is just plain measles, kaya nasa baba lang siya, it's a viral infection with no other complications, then it's home remedy lang. Okay, you give vitamin A lang, supportive treatment lang. No need for antibiotics because it's a viral illness. It's different when you have complications. Sabi nga natin kanina, di ba? The management will depend on the presence of complications. So if you have eye or mouth complications, aside from vitamin A, then you give other treatments, no, topical antibiotics, for example, for the presence of conjunctivitis. Or if your patient already has severe complicated measles, then you have to refer the patient immediately to a hospital. So while referring the patient, then you give the first dose of an appropriate antibiotic already. I mentioned that measles is a viral infection. So you might ask me, bakit ka magbibigay ng antibiotics? Di ba kung viral illness naman yan? You give antibiotics because there is a superimposed bacterial infection if you already have severe complicated measles. Most of the time, nag-pneumonia na yung mga yan. Okay? And aside from the virus causing pneumonia, there can also be superimposed bacterial pneumonia. And we all know that most patients, no, will die from complications of measles, particularly pneumonia. So when you talk about measles, the most common complication will be the otitis media, but the most common cause of death in measles will be pneumonia. Kaya ka nagbibigay ng appropriate antibiotic because of the possibility of a superimposed bacterial infection. So kapag meron kang severe complications, you refer the patient immediately to the hospital for admission to prevent, no, mortality on these patients. Okay? So the last symptom will be the ear problem, no? Kasi 'di ba, pag nakakaligtaan po 'yan ng mga physician. Sometimes when patients present with fever or any problem, hindi na check yung tenga, no, ng mga bata. So make it a habit that when patients come to you, you do a complete physical examination. And part of that will be checking the ears of your patient. It's good if the patient will actually tell you that there is pain, for example, or if there are any discharges coming from the ear. But what if there's none? Okay, so you still need to do a complete physical examination, and you still check for the ears. Okay, so in terms of the classifications of the ear problems, okay, so your patient presenting with an ear problem can either be classified as having wala namang ear infection or no ear infection, no? Kapag walang pain, walang pus, or walang discharge coming from the ear na sinabi na masakit, then you tell the patient na supportive treatment lang tayo. No treatment needed, no? Just reassurance, no? You tell the parents lang na huwag kakalikutin ng tenga, do not use yung mga cotton or any hard object putting inside the ear. You keep the ears dry, you avoid manipulation. If there are any signs that are present aside from the from the complaint of the ear problem, then you classify the patient as either having an acute or a chronic ear infection. And if there's tender swelling behind the ear, you classify the patient as having mastoiditis already. So in terms of the different bacteria that cause, no, for example, no, let's focus on the ear problem. If there's pus already, no, meron ka ng ear infection, and most of the time it's actually otitis media, no. Always remember when they ask you, no, if you're consultants or in the boards or in the exam, they ask you what are the 3 most common pathogens causing otitis media. So what you will answer will be strep pneumo, H. flu, and your Moraxella catarrhalis. So those are the top 3 common pathogens causing otitis media. Aside from otitis media, mababasa nyo rin sa libro that the top 3 causes nitong mga nabanggit kong to are also the top 3 causes of sinusitis, no, in not just in children but in adults as well. So again, strep pneumo, H. flu, and your Moraxella catarrhalis. And the management of otitis media will still be amoxicillin. Okay, the drug of choice will still be your amoxicillin, high-dose amoxicillin at 90 milligrams per kilo per day in 2 divided doses. Now, kung mapapansin nyo kanina when we were discussing pneumonia, ang dose lang natin ay 40 milligrams per kilo per dose. Diba? No? Dito naman, ang ano natin, 90 milligrams per kilo. So kung kanina, kung in-add mo yung 40, 80, dito nasa 90 to 100 milligrams per kilo per day, no, in 2 divided doses. Okay, so second line of treatment will be your coamoxiclav, no, yung mga amoxicillin plus clavulanic acid. Okay, and then macrolides, pwede mo rin gamitin, no, azithromycin, clarithromycin, cefuroxime, cefaclor, cefixime, and clindamycin as well. But if they will ask you the drug of choice, it will still be amoxicillin. Okay? So after focusing on the main symptoms that spread, no, for example, nagpunta yung pasyente mo na may cough, na-assess mo na siya, okay, you were able to assess the patient, for example, as having no pneumonia, and then you check the nutritional assessment, the nutritional status of your patient. Payat ba ang pasyente ko? Is my patient malnourished? Does my patient have visible or severe wasting? You check for the presence of edema. You take the weight and the height and you plot them in the growth charts. Diba? Remember, we always tell you to get the anthropometric measurements and then you plot them in the growth chart so that you will be able to say na halimbawa yung patient mo is wasted, severely wasted. Okay, so don't forget to do that, no? As part of your nutritional assessment. Then you will be able to classify your patient as having severe, moderate, or normal, no, yung kanyang weight. Also, you check for the immunization and vitamin A status. So part yan ng history taking natin sa pediatrics, di ba? Immunization history. So we don't take everything hook, line, and sinker, ha? Pag sinabi ng nanay, kompleto po. Okay, sometimes you need to probe kasi kung minsan parents will just tell you na tinatamad sila or hindi nila alam. They just tell you na, ay, kompleto. So you probe, no? Anuhin nyo, saan po siya nagpabakuna? Naaalala nyo po ba? Kasi kung fresh pa yan, maaalala pa ng nanay yan. Pero kung nag-joke only lang yan, sabihin lang niya. Okay? So you look or you ask for any evidence, no? For example, dala nyo po ba yung kanyang record? No? Kung minsan may mga bata na meron silang mga baby book, especially for those na nagpapa-follow up sa mga private physicians, di ba? May mga baby book yan at nandun yung kanilang immunization record. Yung mga nagpa-follow up sa mga RHUs, they have the child immunization record similar to what you can see on this slide. Okay? So nakalagay dyan yung mga bakunang binibigay natin. Okay? Para makita natin, bakit kaya siya nagpigdas? Kasi wala pala siyang bakuna ng measles. Bakit kaya siya nagkaroon ng pertussis? Kasi wala pala siyang bakuna ng DPT. Okay, so very important that you check the immunization as well as the vitamin A status, because most patients who develop measles are usually devoid of vitamin A. No, kaya part of the management of measles will be the giving of vitamin A, because most of these patients are malnourished. Kaya kailangan mo ng micronutrient supplementation as well. Okay? So, kung titingnan natin yung mga ano kanina, no, yung mga different IMSI charts, makikita niyo yung mga colors. If you were able to appreciate the different colors, no, balikan natin yung mga colors. No, ayan, oh, 'di ba? Merong pink, may yellow, 'di ba? Ayan, oh. Kung napansin niyo yung mga 'yan, okay? This is what we call the color coding or color triaging of the patients, no, once we classify them. Because, okay, the severity of the illness will depend, okay, the treatment will depend on the color, okay? So kapag na-classify mo yung patient as severe, okay, meaning nasa pink, no, na color siya, this patient needs pre-referral treatment and urgent referral to the hospital. For those na naka-classify sa yellow, no, kung titignan mo yung chart, nakita mo nasa yellow siya, then specific medical treatment lang ang kailangan ng pasyente mo. Ibig sabihin pang OPD lang yan. No, bigyan mo lang ng antibiotics yan, bigyan mo ng other remedies, then counsel, you tell the parents know what to do. Yung green, ito na yung mga simple advice on home management. Pag sinabi mo na, ay mami, your patient or your daughter has simple cough or colds only. No need for antibiotics. You just increase the fluid intake, rest, okay, at saka pakainin ng maayos. Okay, so that's a simple advice on home management, meaning your patient is triage on the green triage or green color. Okay, so these are the different color coding that we use in the IMCI. Pag nakita mo pink na yung triage ng patient mo, okay, referral na kaagad yan. Okay, so once you identify the appropriate treatment based on the color code of your patient, then you decide, okay, what to give to your patient. So nandun naman sa chart kung ano yung appropriate treatment, no? Nadaanan na natin kanina yung mga appropriate treatment. So for pink, dapat hospital setting yan. Pag yellow, pwedeng outpatient lang or sa RHO or sa health facility mo, bigyan mo ng antibiotics and other medications, then send home or home care. Okay, and always remember that part of our holistic management of these patients will be to counsel the caregiver. No, you explain. Please take time. No, so when you become doctors later on, please take time to explain to the patient kung nakakaintindi na, or to the caregivers or to the parents the illness and the treatment that we're going to give, para hindi sila at a loss, no? Kung minsan kasi kaya hindi sila nagkukumpleto ng treatment kasi hindi na-explain ng maayos sa kanila. And then if you can, you demonstrate the medication use, kasi baka mamaya prescribe, hindi naman pala marunong. Halimbawa, nag-prescribe ka ng nebulizer, hindi naman pala marunong gumamit ng nebulizer yung mother, no? So you tell them how to use the nebulizer, for example, no? And then emphasize home care and danger signs. Always remember to tell the mother when to come back. Pag nakita niyo po ito, pag suka po ng suka yung anak ninyo, pag halimbawa po nagkumbulsyon yung anak ninyo, ibalik niyo po siya kaagad sa amin. Okay? So you always tell the parents the different danger signs and tell them to follow up immediately. Because again, yung IMCI, ang gusto natin dyan is to reduce the morbidity and mortality. And remember, these different causes of mortality, pneumonia, diarrhea, these are preventable. Kaya natin i-prevent yung mga yan. Therefore, our role as physicians, our role as IMSI implementers will be to contribute in reducing the mortality of children under 5, so that mapababa po natin yung mortality rate. Okay? Mas gaganda po yung health status ng ating mga pasyente. Okay? So follow-up care, when to follow up. Okay? At bakit kailangan po nilang mag-follow up kahit magaling na sila? So that we will be able to assess and check for the presence of any other problems. At kung kailangan silang i-refer sa specialist, so for example, baka mamaya obese yung pasyente mo, baka kailangan mo siyang i-refer sa isang nutrition clinic. Okay? And of course, in our settings, dapat meron tayong mga referral slips. importante ang ating service delivery network. It's very important that, we have very good relationships, for example, with the different hospitals around us. And don't just tell the patient or tell na pumunta kayo sa hospital na ganyan. If you can actually refer personally the patient to the hospital, okay, or if you can write a very good history, okay, give it to the caregivers para pagdating nila sa hospital, meron silang ipapakita. Okay, we should have a very efficient service delivery network. Okay, so IMCA in the Philippines, I mentioned that IMCI was developed in 1995. In 1996, 1 year after the development of the IMCI, in-adopt na ng Department of Health yung IMCI from the WHO. Okay? It's being implemented already through the RHUs, ginagamit na po yan, and barangay health stations. And this has been integrated already with the universal healthcare. Di ba? Nasa ano na tayo ngayon? Nasa mga integration ng universal healthcare. So part of the UHC will be the implementation of the IMCI as well, no? As well as the kalusugan pangkalahatan. Okay? So let us look at one example, no? So tingnan natin, no? Please you can write down, you can answer, okay? Kung para mas ma-practice kayo because mas maganda na at this point ma-apply ninyo yung mga tinuro natin. So let's look at John, for example. John is a 1.5-year-old patient, male from Doña Imelda, Quezon City, sa likod lang ng UERM, okay? 10 kilograms si John, and the chief complaint of John was cough of 4 days. So you are in the RHU of Barangay Kapiligan, for example. Okay, you are the physician in the RHU, and John was brought by the mother. So on physical examination, patient is awake, irritable but consolable. You counted the respiratory rate at 52 per minute. Clear breath sounds, no chest indrawing, no retractions. O2 saturation measured, no ba? Meron kang pulse ox sa RHU mo, no, at 96% room air. Okay, so again, anong unang-unang gagawin natin? You check for danger signs. Di ba meron bang danger signs? Are there danger signs mentioned in the history and physical examination? You will notice that there are no general danger signs. Therefore, you now focus on the main symptom, which is cough. Di ba? Inuubo eh. Okay? So, cough. Ano yung, based on what we discussed kanina, ano yung titignan ninyo sa pag inuubo yung pasyente? Diba? You count the RR, you check for the presence of chest indrawing or use of accessory muscles, you check for wheezing or stridor. Okay, di ba yun ang titingnan natin? So based on your physical examination and history, what will now be your classification? So yung binigay ko kanina, di ba? Yan yung history and PE natin. So what will now be your classification? Okay, so review natin. Ano yung RR niya? 54, di ba? Sa age niya na 1.5, it is already considered as takip niya. So kapag meron kang takip niya, which is the most consistent finding in pneumonia, fast breathing, your classification will now be pneumonia, di ba? So what is the appropriate plan of management? So nasa yellow color siya, di ba? Yellow triaging. So fast breathing, pneumonia, classification is pneumonia, then you give the oral antibiotics for 3 days. Say for example, hindi naman HIV endemic area ang Barangay Kapiligan, ang Barangay Doña Imelda, so you just give the antibiotics for 3 days. Okay? So advise mother when to return immediately and follow up in 2 days. Okay? So anong antibiotics ang ibibigay natin? Amoxicillin. Okay? Kung HIV prevalent area siya, 40 mg dose for 5 days. Pag low prevalence, 40 mg dose, 3 days only. So your patient is 10 kilograms, therefore the dose is, recall again your knowledge in pharmacology, in prescribing medications. Okay? So that, naalala ko, that was one of your Waterloo nung second year kayo, in writing prescriptions. Okay? So again, in the OSCE that we gave you last year, okay? So please review your pharmacology So if you have a preparation of 250 per 5, so by cross multiplication, then you will be able to come up with 8 ml every 12 hours for 3 days because we classified, for example, Barangay Doña Imelda as low HIV prevalence. So in your prescription, you give amoxicillin 250 milligrams per 5 ml. You give 8 ml every 12 hours for 3 days. So kung pwede mong ilagay yung oras, 8 a.m., 8 p.m. Kasi ako in my private practice, ganun ang ginagawa ko. Nilalagay ko yung oras para hindi makalimutan ng nanay. At saka para yun na yung susundan niya. Okay? Okay, so this same patient on follow-up, nagbigay ka na ng amoxicillin. Okay, followed up after 2 days. This time, your patient is now irritable and unconsolable. The RR is now 60 per minute with crackles, chest indrawing, and subcostal retractions. So there's now use of accessory muscles of respiration. So what now is your classification? So if you're going to look, takipnik pa rin siya, di ba? And now meron na siyang chest indrawing. Okay, may chest indrawing, may takip niya na siya. Therefore, your patient has severe pneumonia or very severe disease. Mali lang yung pagkakabilog, but what should be encircled here will be based on your patient will be chest indrawing. Okay, so regardless, it will still be classified as severe pneumonia or very severe disease. So what is your appropriate plan of management? Nasa pink line siya, di ba? Pink color. Therefore, pag sinabi natin pink color, urgent, pre-referral treatment, and urgent referral. So you give antibiotics, you refer immediately to the hospital. So anong antibiotics ang ibibigay nyo? Kung naaalala nyo pa, yung isang slide kanina, ang sabi natin, you give ampicillin plus an aminoglycoside, your gentamicin. So this is the dose, no? 50 mg dose for ampicillin, you give every 6 hours habang tinatransport mo yung pasyente mo. At gentamicin, 7.5 mg dose, okay? So compute natin ang ampicillin, 10 kilograms si John, di ba? So ampicillin 50 times 10 is 500 milligrams IM. Or kung meron kang IV access, you give it, no? Habang nire-refer mo yung pasyente mo sa hospital. Okay? So very important ang prevention ng pneumonia in children. So it's good thing that there are different vaccines available. In the RHU, part of the National Immunization Program is the giving of your anti-pneumonia vaccine, di ba? Part na yan sa RHUs. But if kung hindi siya available, then you have to give the vaccine. The immunization is a very important, a very effective measure in preventing pneumonia, aside from, of course, nutrition, and controlling the environmental factors such as pollution, yung mga nagsismoke na mga parents, and very good hygiene. So these are the different, dati ang available lang, PCV10 or the conjugate vaccine 10, merong Prevnar 13, meron na ngayong PCV 15, at meron na nga PCV 20. So madami ng mga anti-pneumonia vaccines that are available. What is important is dapat mabigyan natin ng bakuna ang mga bata. Kaya nga part of our management will be checking the immunization status of your patient. Okay, so those are the different management protocols for sick children 2 months up to 5 years. What about the younger kids? Okay, yung mga infants less than 2 months. Okay, so always remember, if it is a sick infant, importante na ma-assess mo kaagad yung mga yan. Because most of the time, for these children less than 2 months old, pag nagkakasakit po sila, most of the time serious ang kanilang mga infections, no? Kaya ina-admit po sila most of the time in the hospital. So check for jaundice, possible serious bacterial infection, presence of diarrhea, HIV infection, feeding problems, because sometimes parents or mothers will have difficulty breastfeeding the infant. Okay, so once you are able to check for those, then you will be able to give the appropriate treatment, no? Always remember, you are dealing with an infant. So importante na ma-assess natin kaagad kung kailangan ma-admit, no? If there's doubt, always refer. Okay, refer to the hospital immediately. So, before referring, no, kasi nandun pa siya sa RHU mo, di ba? Nasa health center muna siya. Anong sabi natin? Before referring, gumawa ka na ng paraan. Kung kailangan bigyan mo siya ng antibiotics, bigyan mo na siya ng antibiotics intramuscularly. If you have difficulty accessing the IV, no, the vein of the patient, then you have to give it intramuscularly. But again, if you are in doubt, always refer because these are small infants. Okay? And time is very important because kapag nahuli ka lang ng mga hours dyan or even days, pwedeng magkaroon ng mortality. Okay? So once you give the antibiotics, part of the management will be counseling the mother as well and then telling the mother what to watch out for in the patient. Okay? So in terms of jaundice, no, remember, no, baka kasi pupunta yung bata, pupunta yung nanay, naninilaw po yung anak ko. Okay? One of the common problems that we encounter will be the parents bringing the child because madilaw siya. So remember, if you have, I don't know if you have lectures already on jaundice or hyperbilirubinemia in the newborn, but always remember that when you have jaundice in the newborn, it's very important to determine when did the jaundice appear and is it really jaundice? So you do your complete physical examination. I-check mo talaga kung mananinilaw ba talaga yung bata and then you ask the mother, kailan po lumabas ang paninilaw? Because the timing of the appearance of the jaundice will tell you if it is physiologic or pathologic. Okay? So you have to differentiate between pathologic and physiologic. Always remember that in jaundice, any jaundice appearing within the first 24 hours of life is almost always pathologic. Okay? Kung nakita mo ang paninilaw, second day, third day, pwedeng physiologic lang yan. Lalong-lalo na, especially if there are no other signs and symptoms. If your physical examination is normal, if the baby is feeding well, at naninilaw lang si baby, you just reassure the mother that it is physiologic. It's different when you notice the jaundice within the first 24 hours of life. Then you have to investigate for the cause of the jaundice. Baka mamaya meron kang ABO incompatibility, meron kang sepsis, okay, para ma-rule out mo yung mga pathologic causes of jaundice. So timing is very important, no? Timing ng jaundice. Okay? Important also to counsel the mother on breastfeeding. Kasi kung minsan sasabihin ng nanay, ay wala po akong gatas. Pwede ba yun? Diba? Yung mga dogs and cats nga may mga milk. Yung human pa kaya walang milk. So walang gatas yan kasi hindi nagpapadede. Remember the stimuli for producing milk, okay, in humans will be the baby crying and the baby sucking on the breast. If the mother is not letting the baby suck on the breast, wala talagang lalabas na gatas yan. So remember, the baby crying and the baby sucking on the breast will send signals to the brain, and the brain will tell the pituitary to release two important hormones necessary for breast milk production and ejection, and these are your oxytocin and your prolactin. Diba? So yun, kapag hindi dumedede, hindi umiiyak si baby, talagang hindi magpo-produce ng gatas ang nanay. Okay? So always remember, kapag halimbawa na-manage mo naman sa RHU yung patient mo, you tell the mother when to follow up. Very important. Okay? So this is just a slide on a possible serious bacterial infection. Kapag merong serious bacterial infection, refer immediately, no? Kasi nasa pink line yan, possible serious bacterial infection. So these are the different signs: convulsions, tachypnea, chest indrawing, bulging fontanelles, okay, fever, okay, lethargy, okay, or less than normal movement. Pag hindi masyadong gumagalaw, hindi masyadong umiiyak ang bata, it's a sign of a possible serious bacterial infection. You give antibiotics right away and refer urgently to the hospital. Okay. So these are just some, no? You can read on this. Okay. This is for feeding. Okay. If the child is not able to feed, pag hindi dumedede, okay, pink yan. Ibig sabihin urgent referral. Because the baby technically speaking, the baby or the newborn should be breastfeeding as often, di ba? Kung hindi, every 3 hours dapat ang pagdede ni baby. Because remember, the gastric emptying time of the newborn is 2 to 3 hours. So after feeding, after 2 to 3 hours, dapat gutom na yan. Dapat humihingi na ng milk yan. If the baby is not drinking milk, okay, not breastfeeding, that means it's a serious infection. So you refer the patient immediately. Sabi ko nga kanina, di ba? When you are dealing with infants less than 2 months old, if you are not sure, if you are in doubt, always refer. Okay, so in summary, okay, we were able to discuss IMCI, okay, syndromic approach in patients with these illnesses, okay. It's an integrated approach to childhood illnesses, okay, by the WHO and UNICEF, and it was adopted by the Philippines in 1996. So always remember the stepwise approach or the process in the IMCI. Assess the patient. You check for any general danger signs present. Okay, you go to the main symptom, you do a history and physical examination, and based on that, you classify the patient. Okay, so the classification will follow a particular color coding, and then you identify the appropriate treatment. Once you give the treatment, you counsel the caregiver or the mother and tell them when to follow up. So that is the stepwise approach. No, napakasimpleng approach. No, it's a targeted approach. It's a linear approach in the management of common childhood infections. Okay, and these are very critical for reducing child mortality and improving care access for our patients. No, kaya nga itong IMCI very good yan sa mga resource limited settings. No, sa mga lugar na walang access sa healthcare, walang mga labs, walang mga X-ray, walang mga sophisticated diagnostics. No? Very useful yung IMCI, and this has been integrated in the universal healthcare of the Philippines. Okay, so napaka importante ng IMCI. So dapat at your level, ma-introduce na sa inyo yan at maintindihan na ninyo. Okay, so these are the references, okay, that I used for this lecture. And I think that is my last slide, okay, for the lecture on IMCI. And I hope everyone learned a lot on this lecture. Okay, so with that, I would like to thank you, okay, for listening this morning. Okay, so have a good day, everyone. Again, this is Dr. Edward Santos, and thank you.
Good morning. Do you have any questions with the lecture of Dr. Santos? Good morning. No more questions? Everything clear about the lecture? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Bodo.
Thank you for acknowledging. Do you have any questions po with the lecture? Dr. Santos is stranded in Batanes, still can't fly back to Manila. That's why he opted to have a recording instead of having internet issues during a live lecture. That's why he sent us his video lecture. So that's the reason why we played his actual lecture here this morning to avoid internet connection problems. So do you have any questions with the presentation of Dr. Santos? So everything clear about IMCI? Thank you po for those who are sending their reactions. If there are none, we'll call it a day. I'll be meeting you next week during your preceptorial classes, synchronous online session, lecture on makeup. Please don't forget to evaluate Dr. Santos' lecture, ha? Thank you.
Bodo.
Sige po.